Stay tuned if you'd like to find out what that even means in a child, how to reconnect with your one, and to find out what your inner child is asking of you and why it's so important to do this and essential for your well-being and your happiness and your freedom and your health. So to start with, what even is the inner child? So, we're born, we come into this world, we grow up, we go through things that are good and bad, and we pick up experiences and thoughts and beliefs and patterns along the way. And a lot of this actually comes from childhood. So there's actually two parts to the inner child. There's the dark side and the light side. So the dark side, this is the shadow side of the self. So if you know anything about Carl Jung, he speaks about the shadow side, which is the unhealed part of us, and this is often the inner child. This means that you may be in your teens, 20s, 30s, etc. You may be in your 90s, and you may think, but I was a child, but I've left that child in the past. I'm an adult now, and all I need to do is be an adult, right? Actually, your inner child is still with you through life. And if you have been through painful times, especially during childhood when the brain is being formed, then and those difficult traumas haven't been addressed and felt and processed and released from the mind, the body, the psyche, then those traumatic experiences and the associated thought beliefs and patterns will haunt us through our life, and they can actually stop us doing things that we're meant to be doing in the world, or things that bring us joy and excitement, because something's holding us back, and it can be our unhealed inner child. Now, on the reverse of that is the light side. So what did you used to do as a child that you enjoyed, where you felt free, where you felt happy, where you were able to express yourself? And it can be anything. It can be like being in nature and observing the leaves and butterflies and ladybirds and flowers. It could be playing with animals. What if you're a creative soul and you liked as a child writing or creating art or music or anything like that? This is something that you loved doing back then, and this is a genuine expressive part of you. Now, is this something you still do in your adult life? Do you feel like, oh, well, I was able to do it back then, but now I'm an adult, I can't do those things now? Then let me tell you that now is the time when you can give yourself permission to reconnect with that part of you. So, for instance, I'm in my 40s and I love doing cartwheels, talking to random animals in the street, looking at flowers, looking at the sun, the sky, looking at images in clouds, playing computer games. I love anime, and all of these things. A lot of people would think, you can't do that, you're an adult. Why can't I do that? It's society that tells us that we need to, as an adult, only be serious and grow up and get a job you hate and forget all the things you loved as a kid. That's only for children. That's not the case at all. Your inner child is in you all the way through your life, no matter what age you are. And your inner child is waiting for you to acknowledge them and to listen to them and to honour their needs. So why this is really essential is because if we don't do that, then those unhealed traumas from childhood are going to haunt us through our life. It's like the craze on Instagram at one point to put all these filters over the screen. So it's like tropical filter or spooky filter. Now, if you've got unprocessed trauma, that is like a spooky filter, and that's going to affect how you perceive things generally in the world, whether it's your environments or whether it's the people you meet. So let's take an example of a random person in society. So a man, and he's in his 50s, and he's very successful at his career. He does really well, he's got high goals, and he works really hard and he attains them. And he's got Audi TT or something, like a really cool car. And he thinks, yeah, I've made it, like I'm going up in the world, everything's great. But every time he sees a person in a red coat, a little part of him feels a bit scared and triggered. And it's like, oh, a person in a red coat, I don't feel safe around this person. I have to move away from them. This person, every person in a red coat is a threat to me. Why would that be? And it could be because he experienced a trauma earlier in life, possibly in childhood. What if he was hurt by someone who would wear a red coat and he never processed that? He just stuffed it down into the subconscious and it's haunting him. It's that spooky filter. So he might have recurring dreams about being chased by some kind of creature wearing a red coat. And he might meet people, and every one of them he'll think they're a threat to me because they wear a red coat. But what if he were to take a little bit of time to go inwards and to reconnect with his inner child and to think about what is it that people in, why is it that I'm scared of people in a red coat or feel threatened by them? I feel like they're a danger to me. And he might have suppressed this memory, and it can be like a bin. So if you've got a big dustbin and you just put more and more rubbish in it and you cram it down so you can get even more on the top so you don't have to change the bin bag, and you put the lid down, on the surface everything seems fine. But actually inside, all of that rubbish, which is toxic as it festers, is in there just stewing and not being resolved. And another analogy is like water. So we are made of at least 80% of water. And if you think about the difference between a pond, so what's the, a pond is defined by being a closed body of water. And the water, unless there's some kind of irrigation system, the water doesn't change and it can get very stagnant and it can get very toxic to any organic creatures who breathe the air near this pond. And then in reverse, if you think about a stream, like a little bubbling stream that's flowing, and what's happening there is the water is constantly flowing and being changed, and it's always crystal clear, and it's so revitalizing and healthy to drink it or to bathe in it. So emotions and energy in the body are the same. If the energy and emotions from past events haven't been processed and healed and released from the body, they can be trapped in the body and they can cause all sorts of health problems, whether mental, physical, energetic, spiritual, emotional. So, for instance, if a person is living with another person and that person is quite horrible to them often, and they're really irritating the person number one, and person number one doesn't feel they can express themselves and they can say, like, stop doing this to me or I'm leaving. Maybe they're not in a place where they're ready to do that for whatever reason. So they keep their pain in and their frustration, and then maybe they'll start to get psoriasis all over the body because the emotions and the energy are trapped within the body. And if they can't come out verbally or energetically or emotionally, they're going to come out physically. So this is why it's so key to release any emotions and energy from things from the past. It can be earlier in this life as an adult, it can be from childhood, and it can be from past lives if you connect to that. So scientifically, we're all made of atoms in the universe, and they're not created or destroyed. They only transmute from one thing to another. So it's totally possible, even if you're not a spiritualist and you're more of a scientific, logical person, that at least one of your atoms could have been in another person across the world throughout history. And maybe that atom may hold energetic residue from that person. That's actually another scientific theory, that the soul reside in an atom. But anyway, so this is why it's essential to get back in touch with your inner child, the repressed or unprocessed healing parts, so that that can be released. And then equally important is to be back in touch with the light side, which is the ways that you love to express yourself as a child, your hobbies, the things you love to do, and that, you know, that made you feel excited or happy, made you feel high vibrational. It's like the difference between one's energy feeling like it's being compressed and weighed down versus it's being elevated, like fizz in a drink, fizzy drink, and the bubbles rise. So this is how to go about it. Your inner child will always have a message for you, and it can be something like, I want to go and blow bubbles barefoot on the grass again. Please take me back to those grassy fields with the bubbles. Or it can be, I'm scared of everyone in a red coat and I need you to listen to me because I don't want to be carrying this burden anymore. Please listen to me. And often when we grow up, some people can find that their caregivers, whether that's their biological parents or not, it doesn't matter, the people who brought them up and into the world, right? If that person or those people have their own emotional needs that are on there and their own unprocessed trauma, they might not always be able to be at their highest best self for you when you're growing up. So if your parents, caregivers, relatives, whatever it is, weren't able to provide this for you in whatever way you needed it emotionally, whether it's to be giving you unconditional love without any need to perform or do anything, whether it's just affection and like a cuddle if you're feeling sad, whether it's the permission to express your emotions. Because, you know, we come into this world, every single baby crying, right? I mean, unless they're unwell at first, but then they cry, right? Every single baby cries. Every child, when he, she, they feels sad or scared, they will cry. And it's our birth-given right to be able to express our emotions. So sometimes we may be growing up around people who don't feel it's safe to express their emotions because of their own unhealed trauma. And then they may pass that on to us. But it's absolutely essential for our well-being, as I said before, to be able to realise what emotions are in us and to honour ourselves and our inner child who's always with us by listening and expressing it. So I challenge you to set a timer for 3 minutes. You could either do it in a minute and pause this video and then come back, or you could just think about this while you're on the bus on the way to work, or in the car in a traffic jam, or you're watching TV and there's a TV break, right? Advert break. So just set a timer for 3 minutes. That's not going to take all the time out of your day. And just start going inwards and think, like, what do I first think of when I think of my inner child? Now, you may remember some good times. For instance, yeah, I used to do drawing. I don't do that anymore. Or you may remember a time when you went through a trauma. Now, even though that may be distressing to remember that it's surfacing, that's a really good thing, because these old emotions and feelings need to come to the surface, and that's when they can be released from the body, and then you can be free of them for the rest of your life. So if you start, you know, if you're in public and on the bus or in the queue at Tesco or something, Walmart if you're in America, and you think, oh God, I'm starting to remember something from childhood and it's not a good place, then park that thought there and go back to it when you've got a little bit of time to yourself. It can even just be 15 minutes, just like 15, 20 minutes. You can set a timer again. I find that helpful myself because I get distracted and I know I can just focus for that time. And make sure you're alone and you're not going to be disturbed, and then just start to explore it, right? Just either, if you feel comfortable, you could just sit down somewhere, close your eyes, and then just go within and start exploring your inner child, or you can write it down at a computer on with pen and paper. Just start exploring it. Like, what did my inner child love to do? When did I feel safe? When did I not feel safe? When, as an adult, do I not feel safe? And can I trace this back to my childhood anywhere? And then if these things come up, then there's so many ways to process trauma. There's things like somatic release breath work, and there's EMDR, and there's just all sorts of things you can do. But you can do one of these things, or you can just give yourself that, in that 15-20 minutes, permission to feel what is inside so that it can be released out the body. So, you might get upset, you might cry, or you might feel angry. So if you feel angry, just stand on the spot and start doing some punches, like push that energy out of your body, push it back into the universe. And if you're crying, if you want to cry, just remember the analogy between a pond and the stream. So the stream is flowing and tears are like flowing water. So by crying, you are releasing the stagnant water from your body, and it is refreshing your entire energetic system, and you're becoming more like that clear, flowing, healthy stream. So yeah, I just challenge you to do this. And if you find a lot of stuff comes up, then that it can feel overwhelming, but don't worry, it's completely normal, right? So just take it slowly. You could make a list. If loads of shit comes up, list all of it, and then just focus on one point of your list at a time. Just come back to it when you feel ready. Your mind, your soul, your body, your energy always knows when it's the right time to do something. So for instance, in my YouTube watch later list, I've got hundreds of things, and I mean to watch them all, and I come back to some of them maybe a month later, 6 months later, or even a year later. And whenever I come back to it, it's precisely the time that I needed. So you can give yourself that breathing space with this as well. If a lot comes up of inner child stuff to process, then just write it all down, leave the list somewhere, and just focus on one point at a time in your own time. And then you'll start to notice that everything takes on a different lens. Like, I said before about the spooky lens. When the more old emotions that you can release from your body, that old trapped energy that's haunting you like ghosts, the spooky filter, as you let go of that, it's going to start to be replaced with a tropical filter. You're going to start to see things in a whole new light for the better. And it's the most freeing feeling in the world. This thing, doing this inner child healing can take time, and there can be a lot of layers, like an onion. So you might peel away one layer, and then you might realize there's actually another layer. So for instance, for me, I had a recurring dream through my early childhood, and I didn't know what it meant, because we dream in metaphor even when we're in the womb. And then when I was in my teens, I went to have counselling, and I intended to talk about two things. And I ended up talking about another thing that I didn't actually realise was a trauma that I had not processed. And I was so surprised, because usually I know how I feel about everything and why. And the very day that I had that massive realisation, I had that recurring dream again, but it was completely different. So until that point, the recurring dream had been, I woke up in the night and I wanted to put a light on, and there wasn't much light. It was like a really dim light. And as I got older, it got scarier. Like, I'd open the front door just to see some full light, and it'd still be a very dim light. when I went to the counselling and I had this massive realisation, it was literally a light bulb moment. And that night I had my dark dream, but in the dream this time, for once, I wasn't scared. In my dream, I calmly went and got a light bulb, stuck it in the overhead lighting fitting, turned it on, and there was full light, and I've never had that dream since. So this was the outer layer of my healing onion for that trauma being busted. And then at that point I thought, oh wow, I've healed that, brilliant. And then fast forward like another 20 odd years, spontaneous spiritual awakening, which is like an explosion or big bang of new self-awareness, which is all about uncovering that shadow unconscious side so that we can become aware of it, feel it. There was so much spontaneous crying, which could sound crazy, but it was actually releasing crying, and it's freed me so much. So through that time, I then had more realizations about that trauma, which is my first memory, and I was able to clear more layers of that onion. And now I feel like there's nothing left from that is haunting me. So yeah, really, get back in touch with yourself. If you found this video, that means your inner child has a message for you. And by trying these things, you will reconnect with them, allow them to feel seen, heard, and understood, and express what they need to express. And then just get back in touch with what they love doing. Start incorporating this into as many days as feels doable and comfortable. So maybe if you loved writing and you haven't done it in years, on the weekend, give yourself an hour and just start writing. Or maybe when you're going about your day, things might inspire you. Why don't you make a note of them and then start writing about them, whether it's poetry or short stories, whatever it is. It's the same with music and art and, anything creative. You can express it in a creative form. And this is your child playing and being free. And the soul is free. It can't be contained in a box. So, just give yourself permission to be free. You're as free as you allow yourself to be. And I would love to know if you resonate with any of this. Let me know below. And if you try these little challenges, and if anything shifts for you, please let me know. I would love to hear how your journey is evolving and how you're transforming from caterpillar into a moth who's flying free. So on that note, go have some fun with your inner child, and I'll see you next time. Peace.